And even though Sharon Osbourne was sacked from another US daytime staple, The Talk, simply for defending Piers Morgan's right to say Meghan Markle is a liar, Whoopi will survive because Liberals today don't believe there's anything wrong with this sort of gross anti-Semitism. Let me bring in Darren now, who's been looking at this whole ordeal very closely. I mean, look, Darren, I don't want Whoopi to be sacked. I'm not like those on the left who think you say something wrong, you should be booted from your job. But the hypocrisy around how this has been handled, Darren, is just astonishing me.
It is astonishing. I mean, can you imagine, Dan, right, a white panellist sat on Loose Women, for example, or a Jewish person, indeed, announcing to their panel on a mainstream broadcaster and show, frankly, as well, it's a popular show, that slavery wasn't about race, right, in an attempt to, frankly, downplay an act of a crime so heinous that it established the definition of crime against humanity, which, of course, the Holocaust did. Can you imagine what would happen to somebody that sought to deny the severity and tragedy involved in the slave trade? I don't think there's any question or doubt in my mind, Dan, that they would lose their job immediately. But as you say, I'm not calling for Whoopi to lose her job. I believe in forgiveness, Dan. I believe in people actually being able to hold up their hands and say, I got it wrong. The problem is, with some of this revisionist claptrap, I don't think Whoopi is actually profusely apologising. I don't think she is actually saying, hang on a minute, I understand now. As you say, on Stephen Colbert's show, she was basically repeating some of what she'd said. Look at the things like the Nuremberg laws that said only racially pure Germans would be able to hold citizenship, stripping Jews of their rights, political and national. The prohibition of relationships between Jews and those of German blood to protect the purity of an Aryan race. I mean, if that's not Hitler and the Nazis making clear that they view Jews as a race, I don't know what would actually make it clear to someone like Whoopi, right? She's in her 60s. She must have heard this stuff before. We all have. Rightly so, because it's one of the worst, if not the worst, atrocity to ever be inflicted upon a group of people. And what's often, I think, missing from the Holocaust narrative, right? What would Whoopi say, Dan, to the North African Jews, for example, right, in which Whoopi's hierarchy of victimhood, which she views everything clearly through the lens of race, of skin colour, this idea that because Jews were white, they're therefore privileged. What do you say to the North African views? You know, Hitler went around the world, let's not forget. And to me, Dan, this is where the obsession with skin colour and the hierarchy of rights and viewing everything through this woke lens, this is where it leads us to where someone like Whoopi, who I've watched and respected since I was a kid, is led to view everything through this identitarian lens of race, looking at something like the Holocaust. Those who starved to death, those who were forced into rooms like cattle and poisoned, those who were shot and just left by the wayside. When we imagine that those men, women and children, we view them primarily as white and therefore privileged people. I just can't imagine, it defies all, I just can't even imagine what leads someone to actually think like that, Dan. But this is what wokeism is doing. It's corrosive, it's corrupting, it's poisonous.
Well, very passionate analysis, Darren, and I completely agree.